Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it not recording yet?
It's good.
Okay. Hello, Design for Drupal Day 3 for some, 2 for others. How you doing?
We're good.
Awesome. So what if I told you you could reduce your wireframe design time by 50 or even 75%? What would you do at that time? What would you design instead? You've got extra budget. You could maybe add some subtle motion to your pages, enhance hover with some fancy transitions. You might want to design an interactive component and bring in some storytelling. Maybe a functionality like an ROI calculator. You might have a photo shoot, video shoot. You might be generous and give time to strategy and development. Maybe. But these are problems we all want to have, right? What am I going to do with all this time? What am I going to do with all this money? Okay, I'm still waiting for that one. But today we're going to talk about a solution that's worked well for our team for a number of different projects thus far. This is a solution that MediaCurrent put together. And the Rain install profile is what we call it. It benefits not only designers, but everyone on the project team. And Rain uses the power and elegance of reusable component-based design. So we're going to talk about the how and the when of that from the perspective of a lot of different beneficiaries. Oh, but first introductions. I'm Becky Cierpich. I'm a user interface and user experience designer. I've been designing for Drupal for about 13 years now, and I've been designing for print and web for about 20. I lead teams in accessibility, and I get to do a lot of digital strategy. I'm a student of digital psychology, and I get to design icons. So I have my hand in a lot of cookie jars, but I primarily design branded experiences with branching workflows that lead to customized and personalized and customizable content. And I'm originally from Massachusetts, though I'm now based in New Orleans. And with me today is Cheryl Little. She has played a lead role in creating the design tools we'll be looking at today.
Hi everybody, I'm Cheryl Little. I'm the Director of User Experience at MediaCurrent. I've been with MediaCurrent a little over 4 years. I'm based out of Los Angeles, California. I'm an advocate for the user and the inclusive experience. I've been designing and creating my entire life. I started way back when in the world of print, moved to physical product design like toys and novelties, and then moved into digital experiences about 12 years ago. MediaCurrent was founded in 2007. We specialize in Drupal. We're headquartered out of Atlanta, Georgia. Our team includes more than 85 full-time experts with 85,000 hours of Drupal 8 experience. We're a top contributor to Drupal.org, and we're a leader in progressively decoupled architecture.
And last but not least, this is our team today. These fine folks will be joining us. They're going to ask their questions, bring their suggestions and concerns, pain points, and we will answer them. And some of these folks are us. Some of these folks we work with every day, and some are our clients, our VIPs. So we might recognize ourselves in 1 or 2 or even 3 of these roles, but maybe with less glossy skin and hair. Slightly. So show of hands, how many are in a project manager role? Cool. How about design? Digital strategists? Sweet. And developers front end or back?
Wow.
Oh, code writers. Love it. Okay, sweet. Thanks, y'all. We have a good group here today. Diverse. So first, burning question. What is Rain? Cheryl, what's cooking?
Well, we can oftentimes think of design as the way, kind of like cooking, right? A lot of different parts. We always want to make sure we have the right ingredients. We want to have a clean work surface. We want to have an organized workflow and the right tools for the job. We have some delicious things to show you.
It's very wholesome. So Rain is a package of pre-configured goodies, and much like a meal kit, it allows you to get quality ingredients right out of the box. So in the world of meal kits, this allows you to spend less time on the minutia of preparing a really good meal for yourself and your family and friends, maybe. And then you get to focus on any number of other things. So these guys having a good time, and maybe in the oven they're baking their own bread. Maybe they had their microplane zester out and they were experimenting with some fancy seasonings. Maybe they roasted some red peppers earlier to add to the flavor. But any way you slice it, you get to enjoy the experience a bit more because there's less tedious tasks and more room for creative tasks, and your meal will be a cut above what it may have been if you hadn't had this bootstrapping, like Miriam would call it. So, moving from the metaphorical to the meteorological, our Rain goodie bag contains our ready-to-use components, content types, paragraphs, and style guide. And it also includes Rain, which was made by Acquia. That cuts development time by 30%. And it includes some enterprise editorial features. And it also includes Thunder, which builds on Lightning, and it further accelerates publishing. Oh, so here comes Peter, project manager. This guy, he is in a curling club, and he has taught me everything I know now, which previously was nothing, about curling, which is a very fun sport and unique, and it's a good conversation piece everywhere we go together. And he's a new project manager, but like all project managers, he cares very much about the timeline and pleasing the clients, and he wants to know how Rain can help out. And one of his pain points is related to timing. So look at this guy, he looks really great. But from a client's perspective, sometimes a project can appear to be going really slow. You have that dead time between design approval and now development's trucking along in the background, but there's nothing to see. So what Rain offers, and you can do this with any style guide, you can show the clients an early preview of the development as the components are being built out via a living style guide. And also, front and back end developers can work side by side without stepping on each other's toes. And speaking of speed, Rain has the capability to be 2 and 3 times faster. So it's fast on its own, like beyond Drupal core, but if you pair it with something like open source Gatsby, JS, or similar, you can get a very nice speed boost because now you're decoupled. Our components are ported to React for Gatsby, and that speed boost is great for SEO and for the user experience. The users are more likely to stay on the site, complete their tasks, convert, and do whatever you want them to do. They're less likely to bounce. And with no server-side processing, you have extra data security, and you can minimize or reduce your cost of hosting to 0 with something like Netlify. But enough about servers and development. Let's get back to design. So, just so we're on the same page, what are components? I know there's a lot of talk about components this whole conference, and it's hot. So, welcome to 2019 or 2018. I don't know if y'all have seen this website, but it was out for Captain Marvel that came out, I think it was last year. Any Marvel fans? Yes, I love Marvel. I take my 2 boys to see the movies, and we love it. But this is how we used to build pages and design sites. We would go pages first, and we'd just stack on the best animated GIFs that GeoCities and Angelfire had to offer. But enter Atomic Design. And who's familiar with Atomic Design? Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Brad Frost, with the chemistry metaphor. So, we start off with the smallest elements, the atoms, and rather than starting with the pages, we build up to the pages from the smallest pieces. And our mantra is to define everything once and reuse it throughout the entire project. So ideally, these definitions will be cross-channel, and at minimum, they'll harmonize with the brand expression in all mediums, and they're an expansion of the brand experience, and they themselves can be expanded upon. And this is powerful and a time saver, but it doesn't have to limit your creativity. So when is a good time to bring components into the project?
Well, we do it at the very beginning. During discovery, they help us deliver the content strategically to the user personas we've targeted for the project. They live in our wireframe library. We build them up from common design language, starting at the atomic level. We implement it through our style guide. Our components are mapped field by field to our base theme. So everything is ready to customize. It all starts with a digital strategy.
So this is SID strategy, or strategy SID. This guy's got a big heart. He's got 4, maybe 5 dogs now. He's always rescuing the dogs. And he was telling me the other day that one of his dogs watches TV. And the other ones are oblivious. And this one dog cries to play with the animals that she sees on the TV. So maybe she's extra smart or the other dogs are dumb. But I don't know dogs. But Sid is awesome. And Sid's been there with us. And he told me the other day that when our team gets together and we talk about functionality tailored to content, that's when our results are the best. So what we do is we take the library, and these components are a good starting point for our content strategy conversations. And of course, we can leverage our data and user testing to create remixes or new components. But looking at the library of basic components helps strategists to translate their content ideas so they can leverage these standard bits and pieces and speak to the user personas. So this is a sort of thing that the strategists will create for content ideation. And so this is an example of a board Sid created for higher ed. And it shows ideas for using specific components to convey specific messages to the personas. So for example, Sid thought the hero would be a good vehicle for the authority statement, and that a 4-card list would be a good place to feature degrees and programs. So this early mapping of UX and digital strategy helps us to collaborate. So how do we design with components? When a designer rolls up his sleeves or her sleeves, what does that process look like? So I want to share a library that we've created, and it's been instrumental in boosting our efficiency for the designers on our team. So this is Daniel's design. Look at that shiny red tie. He always dresses up fancy when we're presenting to clients, but he told me the other day that he used to follow Fish around in concert, so I don't know if he was dressed that fancy then, and I've never done something like that. It sounds really fun. But so he's jumping into a new project, and he hasn't tried the Rain library, so let's take a look at it together. And now this is an overview of the Rain components in our wireframe library, and I'll dive into some of these in greater detail to give you an idea, and I wish we could cover them all. But the library is very robust. It contains all of these components. We have desktop, tablet, and mobile versions of each. And there's variations, like for the card list, we have 2, 3, and 4 up. For the form, we have incomplete, active, and completed states. And these all match up to the pre-configured Rain library. Rain is all profile items. And it's ready to be customized to whatever degree suits the project. And we tried to give it very generic names as to not suggest what you should do with it. So if you see the icon for accordion, it used to be a question mark because we were calling it FAQ, or frequently asked questions, because that was where we commonly were using it. But then we realized it would be more applicable to more wide variety of things if we called it an accordion. So it's an accordion, but it has a question mark icon for the moment.
So here we're looking at the interface of the Sketch library. We use Sketch to create our wireframes. Their wireframes are also available on SVG, by the way. On the left-hand side, you can see how the drop-down menu provides the components literally at a drop. And then on the right-hand side, we're looking at the internals of the actual elements that are available at the atom level. To break the line to the symbol you just customized to your heart's content. Here we have a 3-up desktop card list. This is it's literally you can just drop it from the menu drop down and it appears on your page. And you can break the line with the symbol and then just customize it as you need.
I like to say, you just plop it down and then change it to your heart's content. And we've used this to make wireframes, and it's really speeded up our process. So here's an example of a wireframe we put together. This was actually for the Rain website. And on the left, you can see the home page of the Rain website. And we've used the hero, the card list, the breaker, and the form components. And we just customized them lightly to convey like what content we're going to feature there. And then on the right, we've got the tablet and the mobile versions of those that we also put together based on the library. And then this is how it looks like when they're developed into a completed design. And you can see that we moved the card and the card list. Their positions were swapped, but otherwise all the layout is the same. The fields are retained from the wireframes. And we have included InVision links to these prototypes for wireframe and for design, so you can look through those if you care to do so. So we have our wireframes, and how does this tie into planning like functional specifications for the build? All right, this is back-end Bart. So he's a coffee connoisseur, and he says AeroPress is the best, but I haven't tried that because it seems like it might be too much work, but that's just me. He's built a coffee app, and it's really neat because it has different background colors. You select the strength of the coffee, how much water you have, and how many grounds, and it calculates it for you, so you get a nice, perfect cup, and the different colors of coffee brown are very beautiful, and I'll include a link to that because this is real, but names have been changed to protect the innocent. So Bart's all caffeinated, and he's ready to come up with estimates for the build phase. And he's been reviewing our wireframes with the strategy and the whole team as we've taken them through the process with the stakeholders. And now the most important thing with the stakeholders is that we get those character counts and those content pieces just right to match their content and their editorial needs. So now we're ready to annotate, and we do it for front end, for back end, and for the content. And this is an example of our card list with annotations. So we don't have a lot of style at this point, but if we're planning transitions or fancy interactions, we can put notes here for front end to start building estimates based around that, and we can include back end things like what data we're going to pull in, what sources we're going to use, and this is where it's important for us to include the character counts and any fields that are optional, all of those little bits and pieces. And here's a card component, and it's also on desktop, tablet, and mobile. And having an early indication of how this responds is also helpful. And again, we can customize these as much or as little as we need, depending on the project goals, budget, and timeline. So, how do we implement a consistent pattern library with our reusable components? Oh, it's front-end Flora. She's a Texan, bless her heart, and we work together on figuring out how to make interactions accessible. And it seems like when we take the perspective of using assistive technology for our components, we make a better experience for everybody. So I love working with her. But here's a sample. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, fine. This is a 3-up card list. This has now has gone from a wireframe to design phase. You can see that we've swapped out the images. We've used icons here instead. Also, some of the optional fields have been removed because we decided we didn't need them during the content discovery phase. And this is a card. It's also now in the design phase, and we've added annotations to make sure that everything's defined for even the content editor so that they know how many character counts they can put in there. All the sizes and spacing of everything is defined.
And it looks very different from what we saw in the wireframes because we're not limited to anything that we see in the wireframes. So it's, a world of pure imagination like Willy Wonka. And Flora will receive these annotated designs as well as the style tile, which we'll get to in a moment. But here's a peek into our style guide.
Hopefully it will play.
Yeah, I hope it'll play. It's a really, it's a video. So, great.
It is.
And the default state of this is to match the components in our wireframe library. So Flora can start to code the styles. She can start at the atomic level. And the components will begin to take on their final shape. And this is what we can show the client as we add the styling to it and build out the components. But it's already there in its most basic form with all of the bits and pieces. So the polar opposite of consistency is chaos. We want options when we're building a website, but we don't want a mess. We don't want a pile of random parts, or pieces parts, as my southern mother-in-law used to say. And I recently read an article where Atlassian, they do Jira and Confluence, they were auditing their system, and they found like 11 different styles for a drop-down menu, things like that, and that decided it for them that they should switch to a pattern library or a design system. So with Atomic Design, we have a really elegant way to iteratively build out enhancements to a website over its lifetime and ensure consistency. new designers can jump in and they have a handy reference in the style guide for all the pieces, parts available to them. It's like you put your Legos into a tackle box and organized them. And at that point, the designer can decide what bits and bobs they want to pull in and where something new is needed. And the new things will match the existing things, all fitting seamlessly into the established system. So you get this powerful scalability. Creating new elements, components, and templates is now a lot like building with Legos. And a number of our clients have requested after the site launch that we build out additional things like a landing page for marketing campaigns. I worked on a couple of these projects, and what I did with the strategist was we would look through existing components and decide what we could reuse for the content that they had and what we needed to build new. So for example, for one project, we built a bar chart to display a comparison of two statistics. That was a new component. We took a call to action, a form, and an accordion, and we combined those to create a hybrid so we could have a powerful call to action for a long form that was hidden. So that was pretty fun. Oh, this is Cassie Creative. She is a designer with a capital D, and she comes in and she's got her laptop bag and her shoes and her coffee mug. They all match. And she's a great designer, but she doesn't do design like we do. She works at our stakeholders company, and she's their creative director. And she spends her days doing things like billboards and print design, and she's the custodian of the brand. She's a powerful force, and she has some mock-ups for the website redesign to use as a starting point. Is that scary? I think so. But we can get her on our side, and we can speak to her in a language she understands. So responsive design. I remember my first responsive website. It was probably back in 2010, and I was thinking, oh, what is this? Where's my slide rule? How am I going to figure out these aspect ratios? It was kind of mind-boggling. But even these days, sometimes I still get value from looking at images like this. I might be really focused on a design I'm building, an interface, and I'm maybe on desktop, and like, okay, don't forget about mobile, So maybe Cassie, who's building out trade show booths and storefront displays, she doesn't do this. So she needs a little more help being reminded of these things. And so this is what we call our style tile. There's different kinds of style tiles, but ours is a tool for communication between mainly designers and front-end developers. But this is something that Cassie can understand because she has a brand style guide that she's using to be the custodian of the brand across various channels and mediums. So we take and we extend that brand for the web. So we'll run the colors through a contrast grid to test for accessibility and be sure that we only use the combinations that are WCAG AA compliant at least. And we define the web fonts. So the style tile is mainly about the atoms, the colors, and the type. And we also add some accessibility here with the global line height declarations and readability. And that desktop H1, 72 pixels.
Oops, just keep going.
Yeah, we want the mobile to be 36, so we use a responsive type scale. Oh, here it is. Yeah. And then we define the smallest and the largest size, and everything else is automatically calculated in between. And then we take the atoms, like the colors and the fonts, and we go up to the next level, the molecular level, and we create things like buttons and form elements based on those. But you might ask yourself, and Cassie might ask, and I think that yesterday the keynote was kind of alluding to this, and I think even as designers we all ask ourselves, is it too cookie cutter? I think using prefab wireframes is smart. Nobody thinks wireframes are supposed to be beautiful. And then, we can make something emotionally evocative or clearly instructive or whatever is appropriate in the design phase. And having the components in our toolkit helps us by establishing a common starting point. But it's not supposed to be a cookie cutter approach, and it's supposed to just free us up from repetitive tasks. And then we have more time for creative tasks. And we can focus on elements that are most key to a project's success, whatever those are. But I will be interested in, later on we'll open up discussion. I want to hear what y'all think about this. Like, are modular design systems inherently limiting? You know, is it like Nielsen, Jacob Nielsen, we want something familiar? Or, you know, at what point is the place for innovation? Is it just art? You know, when I'm using the web, I don't know that I'm looking to be dazzled by artwork or innovation, or, you know, I want to get a prescription. I want to order school supplies for my kids. I want to find out if the place I'm staying has a coffee pot. Find out if the restaurant has gluten-free food for my friend when they open. If I get a reservation, and I don't want to hunt for the navigation or for the button or have something flying in my face. So, you know, I think there's a time and a place for pushing the envelope. So, our website is designed, it's been built, and we're handing over the keys to an important and sometimes overlooked person, the site builder or content editor. And sometimes this could be an extensive and maybe disorganized and leaderless group of fine folks. And, you know, sometimes just one person is responsible. So it helps during discovery to get a feel for who's driving the vehicle once the site is launched. And learning their pain points can help us to make their experience better. So this is Content Carl. He actually has to do this all by himself. Others may author content in his organization and pass it over to him, but he's responsible for site building. And he comes from a WordPress background, so he's used to a more user-friendly interface. Sorry, Drupal. But what's great about Rain, we've given a lot of consideration to his experience, and we built a more comfortable ride for him. So this is what the Rain menu looks like when you're adding them as a paragraph, when you're adding these components. And we have these paragraphs in Rain. And they act like mini content types. They're reusable. You can mix and match them. And once they're on the page, you can reorder them vertically with a drag and drop interface.
So this is the user interface of the actual site builder using Thunder. It's a far cry from Drupal core. It's really nice to work with. It's not WordPress, but it's way better than Drupal core. We've done a lot of site building, and this really excites us to be able to use it. It can be customized as well.
And these are links to the resources we've discussed. You can download the wireframe component library in either Sketch, symbol library, or SVG. And we have our style tile template also in Sketch. And we have InVision prototypes for the wireframes in the 3 different viewports, and also for the designs. And these are other handy links. We've got our Rain developer tools, instructions for integrating Drupal 8 Rain with Gatsby, the Rain project on Drupal.org. I talked about making icons, and we've released them, create a public domain on the Noun project. There's a link to that, and there's a link to the coffee calculator app should you want to calculate your coffee to water ratio and your strength. So, are you ready to build something awesome with Rain or with reusable components in general? And are there questions about anything or items of discussion? Yes.
Is this deck available, or will you make it?
We will make it available, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, when you do that, can you provide it to the D4D team? They can even put it on your session page.
Sure.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So in terms of atomic design, there are atoms, molecules, and then bigger things?
Yeah.
So in terms of what Rain provides, the standard building blocks, is that mostly at the atom and molecule level, or does that also get into the page
organisms.
layouts?
Yeah, I would say the organism level.
And can you repeat the question for the recording?
Oh, he asked if the atoms, like what pieces parts were available through Rain, and the answer is it is the atoms, molecules, and organisms. So the components themselves, which is what I'm thinking is the organism level, and then you use those to build up the templates and the pages with the editor, the admin interface, and those paragraphs. Yes.
Sorry if I somehow missed this, but am I installing Rain as a Drupal module or a Drupal theme or like an NPM package?
It's an install profile. Eric, can you answer?
Yeah, so it's like an installation profile. I don't know if you've ever used one before, but it basically will package up a lot of, it has all different modules and stuff. It kind of packages it all up for you. So when you install that profile, it'll bring in everything else with it.
So is that based on the Thunder profile, since you have the Thunder?
It's
sort of
using
editing
the
experience?
Thunder admin theme.
That we've modified.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's some tweaks, customizations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know Thunder is sort of its own install
Yeah,
profile.
yeah. So
Okay.
this is, we're borrowing pieces and parts from other ones to try
I
to
see.
make a unified.
Yeah.
But all of our wireframes include all the fields that are available by default in the basic install profile. So if your designer doesn't want to use a field, they can just let you know I've removed this field, or I need an extra field.
Yeah.
So it gives you a good base starting point to know, so everybody's on the same page.
So I love the sort of menu you provide to the content editors of paragraphs. But I just got out of a layout builder section.
Right,
And has there been talk yet or plans about using brand new layout builder to replace paragraphs for the same implementation, or because I know there's some security risks in terms of exposing layout builder to content editors because it's very powerful and doesn't have quite the same ways to lock it down as paragraphs does. But is there any talk of that yet?
Not yet. It's something to certainly consider, though.
Cool. Thanks.
We've only been using this for about 6 months.
Okay. Great.
Any other questions? Comments?
All of your composite people that commented in your presentation, where did you run into sticking points along the way using this? Probably from designers, but I'm just curious if not everybody was getting in the groove of this, and how did you manage that internally?
I would have to say that our internal team has been really receptive to it. I think it's the clients that it's just sometimes tricky to explain to them in a language they can understand, in like a layman's terms, like what this even is and how it can help them, and why we even need to say the word rain. They're like, what is rain? So I think that's the trickiest thing. And folks like the creative director, even just explaining why our designs are broken into components, it takes a while to show that and show the value of that.
And then that example is it's your client's creative director, not your
Yes.
design
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say content editors really appreciate it because it allows us during the strategy content planning phase to determine how much content is needed for each component to make sure we're using the right component. Because certain components obviously don't lend themselves to a lot of copy. So if they needed extra copy, we had that conversation early on. Maybe this isn't the best component, maybe we should look at something else. And we can provide them with recommended character counts in the end, so when they begin to enter the content, they're not adding 500 characters to a component that should only have 100.
So just a follow-up question on that. Do you find that the system works better with certain kinds of clients, with certain kinds of content? Higher ed, healthcare, nonprofit? I'm just curious if...
All of those.
Can you repeat questions for the recording?
Sure. She wanted to know if we found it more successful with certain industries to use it. Higher ed, health industry, what was the other one? Nonprofit?
Yeah, or any other...
Pretty much all of those industries we've worked with, and we've used Rain for all of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And getting across the point to the client that it's not cookie cutter, that this is just a starting point, is a valid point to make, because there are concerns, especially on enterprise level, that we're just going to give them something out of the box, and that's not the intention. The intention is to save money in the budget, so we can do that extra stuff to make it that dazzling website that they really want.
Right.
Or as they like to say, make it pop.
Yes. Give it that wow factor.
So do you use the same components for every client, or do you add more components to the system for each, or for a given website?
The question was, do we use all of the components for every system, or do we create new components? We start with these components. We don't always use all of them. And then a lot of the times, if the budget allows us to build extra components, if we have something that the component doesn't fit, like, for example, maybe they have like a really fancy, they want, like 4 or 5 pieces of content that have a lot of copy or something, right? So there's not really a component that holds a whole lot of text. So we might have to look at something else to provide a form for that information they want to provide. But it's a good starting point.
Yeah, and it allows us to do the really cool things, like we might have a display where you have a face and then a stack of faces over here, and you like click on one and it turns into a quote, and then you click on the other one and it turns into another quote, and there's like all this opportunities for storytelling, and we can have like statistics and they like count up, just those little fancy things.
Interactivity.
Little delighters and things here and there we're able to add with extra time.
Do you ever have a scenario where you want to update components that live on published sites that after you decide, all our accordions should be totally different, and you push those out to multiple sites, and what does that look like?
Yeah, well, with the Living Style Guide, we're able to like make the adjustments in one place, and then it just goes to all the entire site.
Well, how technically do you guys handle that? Is that version?
Do you know that, Eric?
Then you're
Well,
here.
I think that currently there's like no way, like it's not like a one style guide that's outside of the like Drupal, like a shared style guide amongst multiple sites. So it's like every site have, when we use that
Has its own.
installation profile, it has its own style guide. So if there was like a new shared component that we want to come out, it'd still be somewhat, it's not like an automated thing where, like we're not like using Composer to have a external style guide yet, but so it still would be like a manual process of, if this component on this site, like that's worked out really well. Now this site over here wants it, it'd still be a manual thing.
Okay, cool.
Along those lines, I was lucky enough to attend Eric's training the other day for Pattern Lab. And have you utilized Pattern Lab as your style guide solution with Rain?
Not yet. It's still running off the old KSS kind of setup that we have. But yeah, as we like whenever we start updating our theme generator to use Pattern Lab, then that will definitely probably roll into this, where it would be part of the whole package too.
Rain's older than Pattern Lab, our use of Pattern Lab,
Yeah.
so it'll be integrated eventually.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm curious, when you got this whole thing rolling, when you planned it all out, did you ever consider having each component live as an independent entity so that it didn't depend upon your Rain core, if you will? Like, could Accordion ever stand alone without all of the backing of Rain?
Yeah, I think that's definitely like a way we'd like to, like at the time when this was sort of being crafted, I think we weren't really, hadn't really considered that sort of external style guide. But I think that's definitely a path that I'd like to see us go. Where it's like its own, dependency that Rain has that dependency of that external style guide. So yeah, we could do things like share it, without having to manually move it over.
Version independent.
Yeah,
Each
yeah,
component
yeah.
independent.
I mean, ultimately, wouldn't it be more like a web component?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is version 1, and we're working on including in the next iteration, it'll include a header and a footer as well for
Yeah.
components.
We always need that.
Get tired of reinventing the wheel on especially mobile menus, so it'd be nice to have it out of the box.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did you look at and decide that you needed to create this?
Budget, and it started because us as the designers, I'll bring myself into that conversation. We would go and have all these wonderful meetings with the client and gather all these insights and how they wanted their website. We go design this awesome website, and they're like, "That's great, but we can't do it for the budget they have."
Right.
So it was this disconnect between the design and the developers. So we didn't really understand what was available out of the box, right? So we took a deep dive and looked at what are the different components we need to develop a website, what are the most commonly used things that we recreate all the time, and then determined what fields and things would be needed in like a maximum value to be able to be removed if they're not needed. And then we went from there.
Sorry, what was the URL for the Rain website? I didn't actually.
It's not live yet.
Oh.
Yeah.
But it is a project on Drupal.org.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a Git project.
Yes, yeah. The site's not live.
Got it.
We're still refining the mobile and tablet, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you everybody for coming today. Please take advantage of the resources. We'll make sure and add them to our session.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.